Is this Auburn schedule for 2025 potentially harder than maybe some people are suggesting?
Midweek Report brought to you by our friends at the Rage Room. If you're in the Opelika area and you're looking for some unique fun, we've got you covered at the Rage Room. Also, if you're in the Birmingham area, they've got you covered as well, too. If you're in Opelika, 1510 2nd Ave, Opelika, Alabama. If you're in Birmingham, 2616 7th Ave, South downtown Birmingham. You can throw axes, you can break windshields, you can bust up baby car seats. However, you got to get your stress out. We're going to be talking about this schedule, so there might be a lot of reasons for you guys to visit the Rage Room after this episode of the Midweek Report. We appreciate you for patroning them when you get there. Make sure you tell them the War Rapport sent you at the counter. Guys, become a patron. Help support the work that we're doing here. We'll be at SEC Media Days in just about 2 weeks, live from the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta, reporting on all things Auburn. Hugh Freeze goes on Tuesday. The War Rapport will be there Tuesday the 15th to bring you all the coverage. There will be some things that are patron only coming out of that week. You want to be on board so you don't miss one bit of the coverage. Nobody puts out more SEC Media Days Auburn coverage than we do. We plan on continuing that tradition this year. I want to thank our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. And our friends at the Vibe Vault, if you're in the Phoenix City, Columbus area, or if you're in Auburn Opelika and you don't mind making the drive down, visit the Vibe Vault to get fresh for the weekend. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Suite E in Phoenix City, Alabama. It's right across the street from Chattahoochee Valley Community College, next to Renfro Supermarket, and by the Marcos Pizza. The Vibe Vault, not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. Guys, check us out on podcasts, all the podcast platforms. We are up there with the Auburn Express, Uptempo, College Loop, Just a Sec, and the War Rapport Gaming Channel. Bring you guys lots of great audio-only content. I think we put out probably 60 pods alone on the Auburn Express last month. So that is something that we're going to continue. Lots of stuff that you can only get on pod. I've run into you guys out in the streets. I met a guy at the hospital today going to visit my brother that says he listens to our audio-only content a lot. Go support us over there. So if you're on Spotify or Apple, just subscribe on both platforms. Make sure you turn on automatic downloads. It helps us out a ton.
Yes, indeed. We are joined this Wednesday by our guy from over at the Uptempo pod, Dustin. And we are going to be talking about the Auburn schedule, which, I mean, we've never talked about this before. So this will be literally the first conversation ever about Auburn's 2025 schedule. But we're going to take it from the standpoint of Phil Steele, Mr. Rank Everything in the offseason. He has his preseason lists and rankings of things happening right now. And he went and he put together the strength of schedule for the power conferences for all of those teams. And extracted from that, we have the list, just like we did last time, for who has the toughest strength of schedule in the conference. If you haven't seen this list already, don't worry. I'll show it to you right now. This is how it goes according to Phil Steele. For those listening on pod, number one with the toughest strength of schedule, with the toughest schedule coming up in 2025 is Mississippi State in the conference. They are ranked number 2 in the country. Arkansas at number 2 in the conference is number 3 in the country. South Carolina at 3rd in the conference is number 4 in the country. LSU 4th in the conference, 6th in the country. Oklahoma 5th in the conference, conference, 7th in the country. Kentucky at 9th overall is 6th in the conference. 12th overall is Florida with the 7th ranked in the conference. Texas A&M comes at 14th nationally, 8th in the conference. Texas at 15th with number 9 spot. And then Auburn at number 10 is the 17th toughest schedule out there in the country. Alabama at 21 is the 11th. Vanderbilt at 28 is 12th. Georgia 44 at 13th. Tennessee 47 at 14th. Ole Miss 48 at 15th. And rounding out the conference, Missouri with the easiest schedule in the SEC at number 50, the easiest number 16th ranked schedule out there. When you look at this list, gentlemen, what are your initial thoughts? Auburn coming in at 10th and some of these other schools. There are 10 schools from the SEC in the top 20 in the country. Auburn rounding out that top 20. Thoughts on those strength of schedule numbers?
Yeah, I'm going to repeat what I've been saying about this schedule from day one. It is easier for Auburn than they've had, but still pretty tough. That's this schedule summed up. If you're Auburn, if playing in the SEC West, there were no cakewalks. There were never any cakewalks. But somehow, on the other side of the conference, Georgia seemed to get these schedules where they had to play a couple tough games. But for the most part, they had a cakewalk through their division schedule. Now, with the elimination of divisions, Auburn gets a chance to play Vanderbilt and Kentucky in the same season. Which just hasn't happened before.
Yeah,
so
back-to-back seasons of that for sure is like an anomaly. It happening at all is crazy. But 2 years in a row, you're like, what? When is this thing?
Yeah, easy is probably not the best word to describe and encompass what Auburn scheduled this year. Manageable is what I think it is. This is the most manageable schedule that they've had in quite some time. I don't think relative to their previous schedules, I don't think it's even debatable, right? You want this schedule. If you had to look at a schedule in the preseason and say, hey, which schedule gets Auburn where they need to be in year 3, this is the schedule. You're not going to get off with all easy games. It's the SEC. You're going to have to beat somebody, and you're going to have to go on the road and beat somebody tough. It's at some point. But if you're Auburn, I don't know. Hugh Freeze's got a gift in year 3 with the schedule. If you ask me, this is the best he could have hoped for in year 3.
Yeah, I'm with Mike. I mean, it's manageable, but you're never going to play a schedule in the SEC that's easy. And Auburn's kind of been in a position where you look at a lot of these teams like Missouri, Vanderbilt, Kentucky historically, and you think those are games Auburn should win. But over these last few years, Auburn hasn't won a lot of those games. So you have to take that into account too. Looking at last year, you switch out the non-conference game. I think that having Cal at home easier week 2 than going to Baylor on a Friday night, week 1. I'm sure we'll talk about how important that game is. It gets more important by the day. And we've talked about it all summer, man. It's just you got to get a quick start. If Auburn gets out to a quick start, you get to those first 6 games, 4-2, then you look at that second half, like Mike G said, and it's manageable. You get a lot of those games at homes, the road games that you do have shouldn't be intimidating environments for Auburn. You should be able to go in and handle those. And any year, until we get Georgia and Alabama broken up, if Auburn's ever able to do that, any year when you get both of those at home, you're looking at it like, okay, this is the year when we can make a run, because in these last 20 years, just that task of going to Bama and to Georgia in the same year, difficult. And to Mike's point about divisions, used to have LSU every year too in the West. So you had Georgia as your locked in cross division rival, super tough. And then you had Bama and LSU, who are some of the top 5 programs over the past 2-3 decades as well. It's just been a tough sledding for Auburn for a long time. So we're used to being in this top 3, top 5 of this. So right. To have, it feels more manageable. I'm worried about next year because is Texas going to replace Oklahoma, Florida, Tennessee? Some of those programs going to replace the Kentuckys and Vanderbilts. It looks like it'd be a lot more difficult moving forward. So LSU will hop back on. They're going to win 9-10 games under Brian Kelly every year. So this is the year. This is the year for Hugh Freeze. You kind of dropped the ball last year because I thought last year's schedule was pretty manageable too. You dropped the ball in a lot of those games. You should have got to 8 or 9. You got another opportunity this year. And I think moving forward, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. So, he's running out of time. This is a schedule right here where you need to make the most of those opportunities and make something happen.
Dustin, to your point about the LSU game, I just dropped a thread on Twitter about the top 5 Auburn LSU games over the last 25 years.
Yeah.
You know, not having that game on the schedule is actually, well, I hate to see it go. It's a gift.
Yeah.
I mean, that game, when you listen to the way the players talk about coming out of that game every year, definitely top 2 hardest hitting games of the year, Auburn versus LSU.
Yeah, sure.
It has produced some crazy moments, and it has been in the better years for Auburn. That game has been the catalyst.
Win or
Auburn.
lose, by the way, that game has been like a kind of a harbinger of what's going to happen.
What's going to happen for the rest of the season, right? So we've seen Auburn take an LSU loss midseason and then make a run to a national title. We've also seen Auburn squeak out a win versus LSU midseason and then go on a run to an undefeated season. Auburn LSU is it's losing that game to me. While I understand, I'm happy for Auburn to get the schedule that they got this year because I think that they deserve a schedule reprieve. That's what Georgia's been getting. It's what a lot of those SEC East teams have been getting. Going back to what you said, though, about Vanderbilt and Kentucky, while I understand that people may look at those games and say, we still lost those games. Auburn had enough talent to win those games.
I mean, they beat Kentucky, but yes, definitely Vanderbilt. And Arkansas would be the other one that they probably should have.
You had enough talent to win those games.
Yeah.
And while Hugh Freeze to me, this schedule will be the biggest referendum will be on Hugh Freeze as a head coach. And not on any single player. It's going to be this is on him. This year with this schedule, if you can't get 8 wins done, and we're going to talk about the importance of certain games later in this segment. It's going to be what are you going to be able to get done? It's not going to get easier for you. Love the cameo by the cat, by the way.
Yeah.
What's his name you called it?
That's Mac.
Mac?
Yeah, MAC. That's Mac.
Okay, all right. Mac Daddy in the house. Look, if you can't get it done with this schedule, I've got zero faith that there's a schedule that you're going to get with this with the level of talent they have that he's going to get it done. And when people start firing up the firecoachhughfreeze.com, I can't say I won't be on board if you can't get it done with this schedule.
Yeah, I mean, but listen, we talked about this schedule and how manageable it is and how in certain spaces, it feels as if this schedule is more manageable than last year's schedule with how it's setting up and, where you're getting Bama and Georgia. But according to Phil Steele from last year, this was a schedule that was just inside the top 40. And now it is tougher this season with a top 20 rating, 17 overall. Dustin, you talked a little bit about some of this, right? Like the switching out of having Baylor on the road to start the season versus getting Cal at home. If you looked at Baylor versus Cal as programs are concerned, I would say Baylor is a tougher matchup, and you got to go to their house to make it happen. That is definitely an upgrade. You didn't beat Vanderbilt last year at home. Now you got to figure out how to slay the Pavia beast that's up there in his home stadium now. That feels like that's a tougher task. You went to 1 billion overtimes versus Texas A&M at home last year. Now you got to go on the road to play against Texas A&M this season. You get Kentucky at home, who you beat last year, but now you go on the road to Arkansas. Now, Arkansas is weird because that's a game similarly to Texas A&M. For whatever reason, the road teams have fared a little bit better of recent in that, even though you have Auburn winning that game at home the last 2 times. But just historically, since Texas A&M has been in the conference, the road team has seemed to do a little bit better in that matchup. But year 2 under Mike Elko on the road versus Texas A&M, surely a more tough task than year 1 at home with a very motivated Auburn team to try to eke out wins at the end of the season. Though you do get Georgia and Bama at home, they're still Georgia and Bama, right? Like on the road, at home, you haven't fared very well against either of those teams. It doesn't really matter what the venue has been. You haven't played very well versus those teams, or at least you've played better at home, but you haven't won the game still. So, I guess if you just want to pat yourself on the back. We almost beat them 3 times. Like, great. But at the end of the day, you lost games, right? In heartbreaking fashion a couple of times in those games in the Iron Bowl.
Yeah,
So
these last few Bama home games have been brutal. Just
Yeah.
brutal losses.
So I agree. This schedule is tougher this year, which is weird, since we're having this whole manageable conversation. Is that more about year 3 Hugh Freeze with an upgraded roster that people are like, yeah, this is you can get it done this time? You went 5-7 with what people thought was an easier schedule last year. Like, why do you feel like that's the case?
I mean, for me, it's just, I guess it's got to be the talent. Like when you see, like you've seen in a lot of these, and y'all broke down a lot of the list, and like when you see these people doing their top 10, top 15, top 20s, and you see Auburn in there, we're saying to ourselves, I have anyway, why? Like, we're tapped in. We see Auburn, we watch every game, so we know that Auburn's had losing seasons 4 years in a row and all that kind of stuff. You see somebody coming out with Auburn in their top 15, and you're thinking, really? It's the talent, Ike. It's what you talked about. It's the recruiting. They're looking at a guy like Keldrick Falk. They're looking at a guy like Connor Liu. They're looking at a Crawford, a Kay and Lee, a Cam Coleman, and Eric Singleton. They're looking at you going out and getting an all ACC guy and Xavier Chaplin. That should fix a big issue on the offensive line. Like, they're looking at the talent you've acquired over the last couple of years, thinking, hey, a lot of these guys should be ready to go. They've been in the system for multiple years now. I think it's a direct correlation of the talent. And when you see Auburn, I think Auburn's going to start the year out officially in the top 25. And has Auburn earned that over the past 3 or 4 seasons? Absolutely not. Yeah. But they're looking at the recruiting rankings. They're looking at the talent and saying Auburn's one of the most talented top 15 teams in the country based off of the last few recruiting classes. So it's almost, to me, it almost feels like they're kind of looking at Hugh and saying, you've got the talent now. There's no reason why you shouldn't be a top 15 team. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to beat these teams like Kentucky and Vanderbilt, that if we just look at it on paper, you should be significantly better than, especially at the top end. So I think that has a big part to do with it.
Yeah, I will say this about Auburn being better, Dustin. The Diego Pavia thing is so overblown to me.
Why? Because he completed 40% of his passes last year versus Auburn, and he didn't do anything.
He didn't do anything. He didn't beat you.
I'm with you 100% on that.
The Diego Pavia line is just way overblown. I'm tired of hearing about how Diego Pavia brought down. Look, Peyton Thorne was the better quarterback in that game.
Now, see, that's a factual statement. The only thing that I will say is when they needed the big throw, Pavia made it, and Thorne didn't.
Yeah, you lost because you scored 7 points. But play calling was atrocious, and Jarquez Hunter got the ball 12 times.
Was that he's gassed week?
Yeah, right.
Is that week?
Yes. Okay. And you were at home. This was not Diego Pavia did not come into Auburn and slay Auburn. He's not some mythical supervillain that he's 40% passing.
Listen, all that's fine and good, but has Hugh Freeze beaten a Diego Pavia quarterback's team yet?
Yeah, okay, but this is why I said at the top, this is a Hugh Freeze issue and not an like this is I'm telling you, I'm laying this at the feet of Hugh Freeze.
I mean, Hugh Freeze is the coach, so you can't really separate those two right now.
It's his feet, right? Because your defense held them to 17 points.
Yeah.
And you should be able to win any game at home.
Should have been 14, right? Like, didn't they miss that field goal with that Keldrick Falk jumped over the guy? What or did they ended up scoring a touchdown after that field goal?
Yeah, I think they punched it in. Yeah.
Shouldn't even have been another touchdown in that game. It should have been a field goal. So yeah,
that's when Hugh took the timeout with 2:02 on the clock, and then said after the game he forgot there was a 2-minute warning in college football now. All that.
Yeah. I mean,
that was coaching malpractice. I'm not gonna hold you. That Vanderbilt game was bad.
Yeah, I think people are looking at what Auburn is from a talent standpoint, and they're saying you didn't beat them, but they're still Vanderbilt in every sense of being Vanderbilt. You have more talent than them. You have more resources than them. You have better everything than them. Just go out and beat them. Going up to Nashville and getting a win is not some daunting task in the SEC.
Not.
It might be the easiest place to go get a win on the road. Just go get it.
Yeah.
Right. And start. And, there will be people after this segment. Oh, Mike G, you're looking down. Yes, I'm looking down on Vanderbilt. They're Vanderbilt.
I'm right there with you. I've been
You
saying
can't be
for a
looking
couple of
down on
weeks
them
now,
every
all
year.
disrespect. I'm not doing the whole no disrespect. No, all disrespect to Kentucky,
Intended,
Arkansas, Vandy, Missouri. You're supposed to beat them.
Yeah, if we're living in a world where we cannot look at Vandy and say, yes, that's a dub every year. Especially when statistically you look at it and it's not like they're doing anything. They didn't do anything amazing. As a matter of fact, I would say that Bama's defense struggled with Pavia way more than Auburn's defense did.
Easily, not even question.
Yeah.
Auburn's
put up
offense
way more points in that
way
game.
underperformed.
Yeah.
They had no answer for Diego Pavia. They got a bigger Pavia problem than Auburn does. So, look, I get where people are coming from. I just want to say this schedule it is what it is, but it's a gift. It is an absolute gift to Auburn in a year where you have to have it. You have to have it this year. Now I think we've got a schedule graphic in here, but the first 6 games are where this is going to tell the tale of your season. You open up with Baylor August 29th in primetime. The only other P4 game on is Colorado versus somebody. Right? You get Ball State, South Alabama, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Georgia. That first 3-game stretch to open the season is what's really going to set up to open your SEC season. I'm sorry, is what's going to tell the tale for you. You just have to get one. Now I hear Dustin when he says I think Auburn can survive a 3-3 start. It's not ideally. It's not where you want.
No,
sure. It's not ideal for sure.
Yeah. You want to be 4-2 coming out of this first 6-game stretch because that stretch that starts at Missouri and ends at Mercer. Hear me out, fellas. The most winnable stretch of Auburn football in the last 25 years. Missouri. Look, man, Eli Drinkowitz gets a lot of credit for doing more with less, but he's also the reason that he's always got to do more with less. They're Missouri. They don't have more talent than you. Arkansas, you should have beat last year. Kentucky, you did beat. Vandy, again, we just talked about that game. Go get that dub. And then Mercer. You should be 5-0. After Georgia, and then headed into the Iron Bowl. That should set up one of the most epic Iron Bowls that we've had in recent history with a lot on the line. There should be playoff berths on the line for this Iron Bowl this year. First to 10. 10 wins. The precedent has been set. 10 wins and you're in.
Yeah.
Missouri should have been in. Alabama should have been in last year. Ole Miss should have been in. Ole Miss blew it because they're Ole Miss. Missouri blew it because they're Missouri. And Alabama blew it because I don't have Nick Saban anymore. If you're Auburn, the space has been cleared for you. Win the games you're supposed to win. Get one nobody expects you to get. And make the damn playoff. I'm raising the bar for this team now in year 3 because we were supposed to be having a different conversation.
Yeah, that's a fact.
So I appreciate Phil Steele's ranking here. I think it shows exactly what most of us educated Auburn onlookers have been saying about the schedule. It is hard, but relatively speaking, it's easier than what they've had in the past. A 10th in the SEC, but 17th, but top 20 schedule overall. Yikes, man. There's no escaping the grind of the SEC. And when you look at the teams ranked ahead of Auburn, Texas made the playoff. Texas A&M, much improved. Florida had the hardest schedule we've ever seen in college football last year.
Yeah.
Billy Napier, Houdini getting off the hot seat. Last year, Kentucky, they're Kentucky, but they've got, look at the schedule. Look how hard. The 9th hardest schedule. Take the under. Oklahoma, they've got a lot of questions they got to answer. I know they picked up John Mateer, but again, they had a ton of injuries. Brian Kelly has flirted with it under LSU, with it at LSU. South Carolina was probably the hottest team in America headed into the playoffs last year. They were one Bama misstep away from making that playoff. Arkansas, Josh Pate says the over-under is 5.5, and he said take the under on Arkansas.
Yeah, they got Notre Dame coming in there.
Oh, man. Woo. Hate it for my boy T. Will.
Yeah, the number 3 rated schedule in the country is brutal for Arkansas this year.
Oh, man, it's bad. And then Mississippi State, right? On the road at A&M, on the road at Florida, on the road at Arkansas, on the road at Missouri, right? They've got the Egg Bowl at the end of every year, but they still have to play Texas. They still got Tennessee. You've got the defending Big 12 champs out of conference in Arizona State. This is a pretty tough schedule.
Yeah.
So it's if you're Auburn, you got it made this year compared to some of your SEC counterparts. Don't F up and lose to Vanderbilt. Don't F up and lose to a Brady Cookless Missouri. No Brady Cook, no Luther Burden. Don't lose that game. That's a game that should have won last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brady Cook literally came back from the dead.
Yeah.
My boy went to the hospital and came back.
They're like the convergence of ridiculous things that happened in Auburn football last year that led to the record that Auburn had is when you again, we've been through this before, but when you go back and you think about how many absolutely ridiculous things happened that contributed to losses, and this is something that you have championed for a while, Dustin. It speaks to a cultural problem where, for whatever reason in your mind, you can't get past the fact that somehow this uniform that I'm wearing is cursed and we're going to find a way to screw this up. So I'm going to shank the punt when I don't need to shank the punt. I'm going to miss the field goal when they run us out here on the fire drill at the end of the half. I'm going to step right in front of a pass as a DB to intercept it. It's going to tip off of my hands directly into the hands of a waiting guy in the end zone. I'm going to muff the punt. I'm going to throw the interception late in the game for a pick six. Like it was literally everything where you're like, are you really serious? You had the game winning touchdown in your hands wide open in the back of the end zone versus Missouri. And he just absolutely drops it. One of the few times you get a dime from Peyton Thorne late in the game. Yeah, he threw some dimes in some games, but I can really only think of like 4 in those 2 years of Peyton Thorne where you're like, yo, he put that on the money in crunch time, and he dropped it.
Yeah.
Just the convergence of ridiculous things that had to happen in order for this to happen to Auburn last year, between special teams blunders, defensive lapses, and untimely. There's never really a good time for a turnover, but seemed like the worst possible time for having 4 turnovers in the game is when you have them against a team in Cal that there's no reason you should have lost to. Against a team in Arkansas, there's no reason you should have lost to. You had your worst turnover problem against some of the worst teams on your schedule that contributed to those losses. So it feels as if you're due to just half of that bullshit go away, please. You're gonna have some stupid stuff. Can we just have half of that go away?
Yeah. The problem is that the Auburn offense left a gap too wide to be closed by chance.
Right, and that's something that Coach Hugh Freeze has said over and over again. Our margin for error is so razor thin right now, and hopefully, with this convergence of talent now in the Plains, you've increased that margin, but you don't screw it up by putting yourself closer and closer to that line.
Yeah, what I want him to do is I want him to own that margin of error. His margin of error is razor thin as a coach, because your players got all the talent that they need to get these wins. You don't have a razor thin talent margin. I've been very consistent on that. I've championed that from the beginning. I never thought that this team was as bad from a talent perspective as they tried to sell when they came in the door, but I understood that to compete consistently with Alabama and Georgia, yes, that messaging is right. You do need to raise the talent level significantly. If you want to compete with them consistently, you needed to bring your talent level up. It was never losing season bad though.
Right. Yeah, you haven't been in a place where you should be in a
Under
situation
500.
where your 5 wins is what happens as a result of
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
you feel like the talent situation.
Yeah,
was.
it's never been that bad. There's this one idiot over on one of the boards that was trying to make some point. I went on our guy SEC Mike's show over at the SEC podcast. And, he asked me about the season. And I was like, look, man, Auburn had enough talent to win more than 5 games last year.
Yes.
Nothing about that is a hot take. And then someone took that and was like, well, Mike G said Auburn didn't have a talent problem. Oh, I said, what I get sick of is the players being blamed for everything that the coaches should be responsible for. And he, what I appreciated about the one-on-one that I did with him was he owned that.
Right.
He did. He owned it. He understands that they got to coach it better, but I do agree with his points on, look, if they could have made a kick last year, then you maybe lost 2 games just due to kicking. Like Ike was saying, the ridiculousness of some of the situations Auburn found themselves in last year, just take a win away here, take a win away there, and then you end up at 5-7.
Right.
But you still could have coached your way out of that stuff with the talent that you had. Peyton Thorne outplays Diego Pavia, and you lose the game at home. That's not a player issue. You had a lot of plays that just didn't work. So they've got to make it work this year. It's got to work. It's got to look like it's going to work game 1, because the tolerance that people are going to have headed into this season for something that's not looking like pretty close to a well-oiled machine by halftime of game 1, it's going to be pretty low. You're going to have a really hard time recovering. And let me tell you something. Working in media, I will tell you, mid-season last year, we saw apathy levels at an all-time high for Auburn sports content.
Yeah.
People were literally tuning out. They didn't want to watch anymore. They didn't want to hear any more about it. It was people lost hope in October.
Mike, I want to say this to Ike's comment about, me and my culture take. I felt a way watching Auburn football about, to your point, Mike, last year, turning on the TV, where I was just like, this feels like a chore. This feels like a chore for 3 hours. This isn't fun anymore, because in the second quarter of the game, I'm starting to wonder, how is Auburn going to screw this up? And it's not, Bruce Pearl hasn't won a championship at Auburn, a national championship. Butch Thompson hasn't won a national championship at Auburn. But when I watch Auburn basketball or I watch Auburn baseball, there's somewhat of a belief in my fandom that they'll be able to pull it out. I know it's going to look competent. I know the product's going to be competent. I'm not going to have to accuse Butch or Bruce of coaching malpractice too much, right? I don't ask a whole lot of questions. Their losses usually more times than not make sense. Final 4 game, Florida's a better team. Clayton was a better player. They made the plays down the stretch. They're a little bit deeper. It made sense. For Auburn, it's like you go back, we talk about these 4 losing seasons in a row because they've been terrible, but you go all the way back to from when Auburn lost that national championship to Florida State. Every year since then, Auburn's lost at least 4 games. At least 4 games for over a decade. In most, like in those Gus years, those 8-4 Gus years, what 4 games were those? The big ones. I think about some big LSU games that Gus just left. Just let them off the hook, man. Up big at halftime, let them off the hook. Did that several times. And it's built up this culture where it's like disaster's coming. And it has time and time again, man. So, in the way that Bruce got in there and just attacked it and didn't make excuses and just started winning the games. Butch, the same thing. Auburn baseball was a mess. Came in, didn't make, and that was pre-portal when they took over. It was harder to turn it around quicker there. Didn't make experience. I know that the sports are different. It's not exactly a perfect comparison, but just mindset wise, man. I'm tired of the excuses. I'm tired of feeling like Auburn football is gonna botch it. We talked about some of the examples last year. Go back to Hugh's first year. Like how much different do you like? How much more solid ground would Hugh Freeze be on if you knocked down a 4th and goal from the 31 versus Bama and you got that win versus Bama in your back pocket?
Yeah.
But you weren't able to execute that. And everyone remembers that last play because of how terrible it was. How about putting the wrong number 0 out there on the punt return?
Right.
Like that's middle school stuff, man. And there's a lot of those in 2 years already. So it's now or never, dude. It's now or never. And Auburn fans, Mike, you talk about this all the time. There are just not a lot of fan bases across any sport, college, pro, whatever, that are going to show up every single
Sold
week,
out
no matter
again.
what. Man.
Sold out the season for after a 5-7 year and a 6-6 year.
Right.
Again, they sold out season tickets before the season, like well before the season started.
The last two times that A&M has come to Jordan-Hare Stadium, that atmosphere should not have been as lit as it was because the Auburn season was already shot by that at both times. But Auburn fans will show up and show out for their team whenever they are called upon. They're going to do it again this year. It's time for the football program to give back. We show up, we give our money, we sit in the stands, and we continue to watch Auburn blow games. It's time for the football team to give back.
Well, part of that is, and this is where I will give them a little bit, I have to give them credit, is they created that hope through recruiting.
For sure.
They went out and they talked about the talent gap much, more than I felt like they should have, but they filled it. And, now we get to see how well did they fill it? How good is the evaluation? And is there a development issue? Jackson Arnold has got to be a guy. This is something I've been championing. I will continue to say it as this season gets closer. Jackson Arnold is the most important addition Hugh Freeze will have as Auburn's head coach.
Oh, yeah.
His success, his failure, whether you move on from him or not, will define him as a coach here. If he misses on Jackson Arnold for anything outside of injury, season-ending injury, which we hope doesn't happen to anybody, and even then, if he gets hurt and you don't have a capable backup ready, if all your season's hopes in year 3 hinged on your first-string quarterback, you didn't do it right. You've got to be better than that with all the resources that have been afforded to him to build a team by year 3. So Deuce or Ashton, damn sure better be capable of doing it. If Jackson is not up to the task for whatever reason. Now, I want to go on record as saying I think that he is. I think Jackson Arnold is supremely talented. I don't think Oklahoma was a good situation, a good fit for him. I think this is potentially, especially this wide receiver room, one of the best fits any QB could hope for with a coach who's not afraid to let you throw it.
Yeah.
So if he can't get it done here, I don't know. Cam Coleman is going to go on. Look, the kind of talent you have in this program, I don't care if Auburn goes 1-11 this year. Cam Coleman is going to be a first-round draft pick. That's how good he is. And when you have kids like that on your team, you got to try really, really hard to lose football games. I said this about R.J. Harvey over at UCF. A lot of folks thought, oh, you crazy thinking he was going to get taken in the first 2 rounds. I said it all season. I said, I think he's a first-round guy that will get taken in the second round because he can't escape 4-8. NFL team saw the same thing, so he went in the second round off a 4-8 football team. And by average, he was the 6th best rusher in the country. By average, he was the second only to Ashton Genty, 6.8 yards per carry. Jarquez Hunter was 6.4 yards per carry. These guys were beasts carrying the ball on losing football teams. When you have that kind of talent, you have to try extra hard to lose. And one of the ways you lose is by not getting your stars the ball. RJ, of the top 10, he was 6th in rushing yards, but of the top 10, he had the least carries out of all of them. Jarquez Hunter, same thing, man. He should have had more carries. Somehow he should have had more than there's no way Dylan Simpson has 70 more carries than Jarquez Hunter on the season. 70. Jarquez might have run for 2,000 yards with those extra 70 carries. Come on, man. Hugh, you got to get it together, brother. You have to deliver this year. Because it's too hard to get on here week after week and talk about shit. It's difficult. It's getting difficult. I don't know. I mean, and people, oh, you guys are sunshine pumping or you're too negative or you're too this. No, I just think that the range of what you see embodies the range of what Auburn football is right now. It's all over the place. Focus it on winning this year and make it look good at Baylor. I know we got a second half of the show. I'm going to save that part for the second half.
Yeah, I want to go back to what you talked about apathy setting in early, because there is a potential storm brewing in Auburn if you don't figure it out. But we will get to that conversation in the second half. Before we do, you guys make sure that you get those comments in. We'll take your comments on the other half of this break. We want to make sure that you are sharing this content with somebody. Like the video. If you're not subscribed to the channel, then you're definitely wrong. But we will get into this here in just a second.
This edition of the War Rapport is brought to you by our generous sponsors. Golden's Cast Iron. Whether you work out, grill out, or chill out, you deserve the best life possible, and Golden's Cast Iron is here to provide the tools to help you do it. Check them out at goldenscastiron.com.
The Rage Room. The Rage Room is a place where anger and stress find their ultimate release. Set up a session today at one of the 2 great locations in Opelika or Birmingham by visiting opelikaRageRoom.com or BirminghamRageRoom.com.
As always, want to thank our title sponsor, The Rage Room. You see the addresses there. Go visit them in Opelika or Birmingham. The Rage Room, providing you some unique fun. If you have never broken a windshield with a baseball bat, oddly satisfying, The Rage Room gives you that option. You can also throw axes, break baby car seats, shatter wine bottles, anything you need to release the stress of the day. The Rage Room has a way for you to get that stress out. We appreciate them for sponsoring this segment. Guys, sign up as a patron. SEC Media Days is on the way. You want to be a patron for $5.99 a month. We're going to bring you guys some patron exclusive content live from the College Football Hall of Fame. Saw a few memberships given away. Let's continue to keep that going. See if we can get 10 more given away before the end of the show here. Gift that membership, help somebody else join the Green Name Gang. Want to thank our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. I like the sleep gummies because I like sleep. You should like sleep too. The Rogue Shop can help you get there. And our friends at the Vibe Vault, get your beauty sleep with the Vibe Vault. Go to sleep looking good. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Suite E in Phoenix City, Alabama. The Vibe Vault, not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. Guys, check us out on podcasts, all the podcast platforms. We are there bringing you guys lots of great audio content. As I mentioned earlier in this segment, we dropped over 60 audio episodes for you guys. And some of this was exclusive interviews with Auburn basketball. Ike interviewed Ira Bowman and Stephen Pearl. That's audio only. You can't get down on YouTube. You want to go and check that out. He's working hard there on the basketball side for you guys to bring you guys a lot of content you will not get anywhere else. Nobody interviews better than the War Rapport. I feel confident saying that. And we bring you probably more interview content than any other Auburn outlet out there. So if you haven't seen or heard that segment with Stephen Pearl, who, quite honestly, guys, I think the more that I see in the media, I think it's Auburn's head coach in waiting. You don't want to miss that because I really feel like they're setting him up to take over this thing when Bruce Pearl
And
goes.
I think he deserves it. If Auburn doesn't immediately look to Stephen Pearl as the heir apparent, then I don't know what we're doing here.
Yeah, but the interview you did, you get such a great sense of what kind of person is taking the program. And it's easy to look at him and say, "Oh, he's Bruce's son. It should be." No, he's his own
he
man.
knows it. Yeah, he knows it. He knows his stuff. He's definitely contributing to the winning culture that's at Auburn, to the recruiting of players at Auburn. He has a pulse of that basketball team. It's not just Bruce Pearl out there. Stephen Pearl is definitely making it happen.
Yeah, he's his own man, and you get that from that interview. That's why I encourage you guys, please go over audio and download that episode. What's the title of the interview there for the folks on audio?
I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I'll get it before the end of the show and let everybody know. But like, I really liked that interview. I thought it was one of the better ones we did. And we've got more of that content coming this offseason.
For sure. Let's get over here into the comment section. As always, we'll start with our super chats. Dustin Pace says, Ike, we need your rant now. I don't know that I have a rant today on the hopper for you guys. I'm just ready to see some Auburn football not feel depressing at the end of the season. And here's the thing. Here's the reality of it. Even if Auburn wins 8 games next year, I'm still going to be mad. I am, because I'm going to feel like we should have won the other games we lost, right? Like, so there's not, like, at the end of the season, I might say, okay, this is what we thought, but I'm still going to be mad because I'm going to look at the games they lost and say, God, they should have won those games too, because I don't see Auburn getting blown out by anybody. So all of those games are going to be close enough where bounce of the football here, no turnover there, stop on third down here, no penalty in this crucial situation. Auburn could have won those. So I'm going to be pissed either way. And then I'll calm down, after the season and say, okay, it wasn't too bad. So, but I don't have a rant today. But trust and believe. If Auburn starts losing games, there will be huge rants coming for you guys. So just wait on that. Super chat here from our guy, JC War Eagle, who says, how many Harsin recruits did Freeze actually keep? Not the ones that were committed and haven't signed, but the ones from the 2 years. How many Harsin recruits did he keep?
That's hard, right? Like, yeah. I mean, because, Jarquez was a Harsin guy. Damari was a Harsin guy. Keontae Scott was a Harsin guy. Jason Jones was a Harsin guy. I mean, you had a lot of key pieces that were Harsin guys.
Even though he didn't use them, Eugene Asante was a Harsin guy.
Yeah. Just, that were key pieces these last couple of years. As a matter of fact, man, I mean, without those key pieces, it looks even worse, which is hard to imagine because those were losing seasons. But, there were a lot of guys who came in here pre-Freeze that helped keep the boat where it is. And those guys deserve credit for staying on board and, helping Auburn through one of these, what is probably been a pretty tough stretch. So, hopefully there are wins on the other side of this. But there were quite a few key contributors that Harsin recruited that have contributed under Freeze.
Yeah. Agreed. War Eagle with another big chat here. Air and opportunities. There went the air. Let's get locked in this year. Hell, as fans, we deserve it for real. And I think we do get 8 wins. I'm hoping that we definitely get there. Exclusive TV says we need a B Will rant expeditiously. B Will, man, he a sucker, bro. He ain't gonna come in here and rant. He don't even be paying attention enough to rant about nothing. But hopefully, when the season gets started, he'll B Will is as casual an off-season observer as anybody else out here when he's not working for the War Rapport. So he ain't got no rant for y'all right now. Connor Hall says, I'd love a B Will take on all of this stuff. B Will just say, win damn games and stop all your blood clot crying. That's what he'd say. Exactly like that, except in a Jamaican accent. Anthony, I don't know where the Jamaican accent came from. Coach Hugh Freeze, Anthony Long says, Coach Hugh Freeze, coaching is the reason for the horrible seasons during his tenure. You have a running back that is still undefeated when he carried the ball at least 20 times, but this coaching staff wouldn't give him the ball rank 12th in the SEC. Speaking of Coach Hugh Freeze in coaching rankings this season.
Yeah,
listen, I think it's a fair take to say that coaching malpractice lost Auburn games. Like, we've already said that on this very show, so I don't think anybody disagrees with that.
Yeah, it was what has irked me the most about Freeze during his time at Auburn has been constantly talking about the talent gap while actively executing coaching malpractice and situationally. That has really irked me. And it just feels like, all right, let's pause all the talk about the talent and let's focus on how we get the most out of the talent that you have.
Right.
And I can't say that the plan that they had in place got the most out of the talent that they had. Peyton Thorne, for all intents and purposes, was a worse football player at Auburn than he was at Michigan State. Cumulatively speaking. Last year, he made a big statistical jump, but he wasn't 1,000 yards worse that first year. That was all coaching and system. So they had a while to go. And look, I think that's validated by the point that you fired your offensive coordinator after year one. So you knew there were issues. And Philip Montgomery, look, man, I don't want to speak for Mr. Montgomery. I did have an off-the-record conversation with him, and all I will say is that he had his own thoughts about what went wrong with the offense that first year. But those guys weren't on the same page. Either way, if you're Hugh, you hired him. You brought him here. So whether it's on him or not, it's on you.
That's my take on everyone that always puts all the blame on Peyton Thorne. It's like, well, okay, Hugh brought him here. Now, let's say, okay, well, you brought him in, you thought he was going to be good based off of what he did at Mississippi State, winning 11 games, or Michigan State, winning 11 games and all that. But then you saw it the first year, and you decided that you could still get it fixed with Derek Nix replacing Philip Montgomery, and it would be better the second year. So it's like, to me, that whole putting all the blame on Peyton Thorne. I'm not saying he was perfect. I'm not saying that he made good, the right plays in the clutch moments. Obviously, that didn't happen. But to me, it's like some of that putting all the blame on Peyton, saying, okay, now it's going to be better. You kind of ignore the person that really brought him in twice, because you brought him in and then you had an offseason where you doubled down on him and said, I'll fix it. And it didn't work again. So it's like just assuming that it's going to be better now that you've got rid of Peyton Thorne. I can't get with that at all.
Yeah,
I can get with it. It could get better, but
it could. Yeah, I'm saying it could,
but it's not going to cure everything. You don't become a national championship team just because you feel like you've got a more talented quarterback. There's a lot of other stuff that's got to.
Yeah, I think what, to Dustin's point, right, is that if that is the barometer, you're going to hit a glass ceiling quickly, right?
If you don't improve the coaching, then there's only so far you're going to go.
Yeah, right. Like you
look
could
at Lane
player in there, you're going to hit a ceiling that you can't bust through.
Yeah,
right. And I think that you see that, like, when you get to certain levels, there's a point even on the basketball side where, as far as Auburn basketball has gone, before that, this last Final Four runs, there were questions about coaching decisions that were made and about whether they were the right ones. No staff can escape this. Bruce got a lot of questions about his coaching over the last few years.
Yeah.
When Auburn has not done well in certain situations. He's always owned it. But we also know that Auburn has not always been the most talented basketball team as well. I feel like this is where the gap is close enough that you could talk about maybe just having that one player that puts you over the edge, or, their coaching wasn't so far off. It was just when it was in the big games where all the talent is even, sometimes it does come down to the coach who's got the better play call, the better situational awareness, the call, the thing that just to dial up right at the right time when you need it the most. And then some players transcend that, which is what we saw with old buddy from Florida last year. What was the guy's name? I always forget.
Clayton.
Walter Clayton.
Clayton Jr.
Well, just otherworldly
Yeah.
in the tournament. It just didn't matter. He made that a non-conversation. I feel so bad about it. I will never do it again. But he was when we were in San Antonio, he was near the court. While we were down by the court, I took a picture of Walter Clayton Jr. I was like, this man, if Auburn is going to win, this man has to be stopped. He was not stopped.
Yeah.
It was ominous and it was terrible. They had no answer for him. But look, I mean, good for them that they had a player like that on their team. If that's what you need to win, go find that guy every year, right? Like, I mean, but that's not your reality, and that's why I appreciate about Georgia what Georgia did in their first run. They put all their hopes on Stetson Bennett, and then they just supported him however they could, and then he helped them out in year 2 and got better, extremely better.
Yeah. Well, there's a ton of people around the Auburn sphere right now who are diving into the Daniel Denny abyss of apathy and despair. And I want to talk about that. And I want to ask you guys the question. We've looked at this schedule a billion times, and we will look at it a billion more. Trust and believe this will not be the last time we will look at the Auburn schedule going into this season and start talking about this. But how much more important has a win at Baylor in Waco become in light of where the program's perception is right now nationally? Recruiting, all of those things. How much more important? Give me a scale of 1 to 10. Level of importance a win would be in Waco, Texas.
Yeah, I'm going to say 10, but it was always a 10 for me. Before all this, it was a 10. That game has never not been important since the end of last season.
Not just showing well, but they got to win. Like,
they got to win.
10 level of 10 importance.
Yeah, it can't be a win that felt like a loss, which is what happened when they went out to Cal 2 years ago. They won the game, but no one was excited after that game. Matter of fact, you probably had more questions than you had answers after a win. You can't afford that. And that's why I say it needs to look like a well-oiled machine by halftime. It's going to be really hard for the fan base mentally to recover from what they've been through the last 2 years. If you go out and it looks out of order and disjointed and like there's no plan and you can't run the ball and you can't move the ball and wide receivers are dropping it or Jackson Arnold has a couple picks, you can't afford that. You need to get in. And now in terms of, because you got to get to 8. You have to get to 8 wins if you're Hugh Freeze. And although Baylor is not a conference game, it still counts towards your 8.
Yes.
So it's still a very, very important game. You can, yes, you can maybe afford to lose it in terms of the conference perception because it won't count against you in the SEC. But I don't know, as far as momentum is concerned, I don't really think you can afford to lose this game. I've never thought they could afford to lose it personally, because you open up your SEC schedule, road, home, and the one home is Georgia. That's rough, fellas. That could if they don't got it moving, that could be an 0-3 stretch. So can you afford to lose to Baylor and then go 0-3 to start the SEC? You definitely can't afford that.
No, you can't. Both of those things can't happen for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, you got to beat Baylor. You have to beat Baylor, because if Auburn starts 3-3, I don't know, man. Like I said, you've got Oklahoma on the road, you've got Texas A&M on the road, and then you've got Georgia at home. And I'm thinking to go 3-3 over that first 6-game stretch, you're either going to have to win your first 3 or you're going to have to win at least one of those first 3 SEC games. And outside of Alabama, I don't know if there's another SEC game harder than the first 3.
Oh, yeah, no, I'd agree with that.
Yeah,
on the road versus Oklahoma, on the road versus Texas A&M, and at home versus Georgia. That's not. There's no comparable game.
Those are 3 games.
Alabama. in the SEC. That's a factual statement. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Missouri, Kentucky, Vandy, Arkansas. No, none of those games rank up there in your top 3 SEC games next year.
Yes. Agreed.
So, the Baylor game is super important, I think, because there are a number of ways everything can go for you after that. Start with a win. Take the next 2 home games against your non-conference cream puffs to work out the kinks. And if you can go to Norman and pull off a win, woo! Auburn is cooking from there.
Yeah.
You go to Norman and you lose. I don't even want to finish that sentence. Don't. Dire. So Baylor is important. All these games are important, but Baylor has become a super important game because if you're trying to sell to, we talk about the recruiting angle. If you're trying to sell to recruits that this thing is turned around, Cam Coleman needs to be a star. He needs to look like a star from game 1. Perry Thompson needs to get his ass off the bench and in the game. Eric Singleton needs to be out there showing off that 4.2 speed we keep hearing about. Jackson Arnold needs to look like the better version of himself. He needs to look like self-help Arnold. His offensive line needs to look competent in pass protection. You need Jackson Arnold to go out to Waco and throw for 300 and a couple TDs. And Auburn walks away a double-digit winner.
Yeah, I mean, you got the potential to make that happen if your defense is doing what your defense did last year to teams, which is holding them for the most part in the 20s. Dustin, 1 to 10, give me your number there on that Baylor game. How important is it to get that dub, considering where fan sentiment is right now?
It's really important, and it's such an interesting question when you kind of dial into it and play out the different scenarios. I'm gonna give it a 9 because I don't think I could ever give the first game of the season a 10. There's so many parallels and comparisons that can be made to where Hugh Freeze and the Auburn program is right now compared to where Billy Napier and Florida were last year. Right. So, and I watched all these same conversations that we're having about Hugh Freeze happen last summer for Billy Napier.
Yes.
And then he comes out the gate and he gets smacked by an in-state rival.
Absolutely.
And that in-state's rivals recruits their players ran down to where Florida's recruits were and pointed at them and said, "Don't you come to this school."
Yeah.
And some of the kids that were in the crowd when that happened decommitted that weekend. I mean, it was as bad as it could be.
We made fun of them right here on this show.
Yeah. The boosters met and they got the money up. And then he won a couple of big games, beat LSU, beat Ole Miss. They finished strong. And now all that money that they had ready for the buyout, they pumped it into the class. And they went from 40 of something in recruiting when that happened all the way up to the top 7 in a span of a month. So it's hard for me to say, okay, man, if we lose to Baylor, that's it, but I will say this. What Billy Napier did last year was Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder. Like, he got up when the count was at 9 and he was knocked out.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen a lot. Most times when the boosters have that meeting, your ass is out. You're out. Like, what he did doesn't happen a lot. I mean, he was at the cliff and he backed himself off. Good for him. He loses a couple more games this year, he's gonna be right back on it. Yeah. That's the nature of SEC football. But I told y'all before we hit record, I think that the Baylor game always been super important. I think over the past 14 days, it's gained more importance.
Yeah.
Because perception is reality, and especially in the recruiting game. And right now, Auburn's losing battle after battle to a 2-10 Florida State. So we're out here saying, oh, well, they're waiting on the wins. Guys, Florida State has Gus Malzahn as the OC on a team that won 2 wins last year, and they flipped a wide receiver. If you're a wide receiver, would you rather play for Hugh Freeze or Gus Malzahn? It's not a question. It's not a question.
It's a really good point.
It's not a question.
That's a really good point.
And Auburn still won 3 more games than Florida State did last year.
Yeah.
Today, what I think was one of the best prospects in Auburn's class, Denarius Gray, flips to Kentucky. Kentucky, a team that won less games than Auburn, and Auburn went up on the road last year and smacked them in the mouth. 75th in recruiting right now. Hey, Brian Harsin didn't have Auburn at 75th in recruiting. We flipped out when he got him down in the 40s. So here's the deal. As this continues, like Auburn's losing momentum in July. The football program is losing momentum in July before games are even being played. And I see, Devin Carter's the FSU legacy. Cool. What was Denarius Gray? What about the 5 other guys we've missed on in the last week? Like you can't sunshine pump recruiting right now. Can't do it.
No,
it's not going well.
Tough sell.
So, like missing on Rankins, so bad. Missing on Morgan, so bad. These guys have a crystal ball that Auburn's supposed to have, and you didn't get across the finish line. So for me, then it's important too when you talk about the Baylor game. Look at the next 2 weeks. Then you've got Ball State and South Alabama at home. If you come out and beat Baylor, like Mike alluded to earlier, Colorado will be the only other team anybody wants to watch on TV that night. You're going to be the biggest brand on national TV that Friday night. First game of the season, first weekend of college football, when everyone's fired up to watch the product. You're going to have millions of eyes on your football program with all these questions circling around. You come out and get that dub, and then don't do what you did versus New Mexico State. Handle your business versus Ball State and South Alabama. You beat Baylor. You're 1-0. You'll have positive momentum. Everyone will see it. You'll be the talk, all that kind of stuff. Then I think both teams will be ranked. So it'll be a ranked win, in my opinion. Then you have 2 home games that should be wins. You should be able to stack visitors into those 2 home games, and you should be able to get some commitments. If Auburn starts off 3-0 this year, they should be able to land 4 or 5 commitments out of that.
Yeah, I don't know.
When you look at all of the, like when you just kind of look at the momentum that could build with a win versus Baylor, there's just so much on the line. So it's not end of the story. It's not end of the road, especially like if you play great, but Baylor plays great and you just lose a close game. Now, do you blow it? That would be the nightmare scenario for me, guys.
If you go to Waco and get smacked.
If you had the game won,
and
you felt like head coaching lost it again,
there's only 2 bad scenarios in that for me. Is you can lose a close one where you feel like you played well and they just made more plays, but you can't have a disastrous like 4th and 31 ending to the game, right? And you can't go out there and get smacked. Right, like you can't just go out there and get blown out, and your offense doesn't show up. Type of thing.
I will say this. I just want to amend what Dustin said. So I think that you need the Baylor game to keep people engaged, but I don't think
that's actually my other question here. You lose that Baylor game. What's the freak out level on a scale of 1 to 10?
Wait. Well, let me finish my point about recruiting. I don't think you start to see any results in recruiting until you get to SEC play and you win one of those first 3 games. So beating Baylor is just enough to keep people on to stay on the radar. And then you got to go out and you got to win one of those first 3 before I think you'll start to see a turn, because you cannot escape the results of the last 2 years. I thought they did a great job pulling in a number 7 class. Hugh Freeze targeted year 3 as the year that they needed to be in the top 6 or 7 in recruiting. They happened to get there by year 2, but this was still a pivotal year. I just don't think they envisioned having 2 losing seasons on their docket when they were going to make their year 3 pitch for a top 7 recruiting class. So at least you got it done in year 2. And, Charles, our guy Kyle Rush over at the barn, he reminds people how many flips Auburn had in season last year. But with early signing day, you're on a truncated timetable to make sure that you get those recruits. I mean, I've been going through this with UCF, and I'm talking to recruits, and look, a lot of them now they're in a mindset where they want to know where they're playing college football in the spring. And they just want to enjoy their senior season. A lot of these guys are shutting down recruiting after the season starts, and it's hard to get these. It's hard. It's getting harder year after year to get these flips after their senior season has started. So Baylor is the thing that keeps them engaged with you if they're on the fence, And then you got to go out and you have to make it real by beating Oklahoma or Texas A&M or Georgia. Now, as far as the level of freakout is concerned, if you lose, it will be all-time levels of high if it looks bad offensively. I think people will freak out more if it looks bad offensively. If you got a higher scoring game, folks will have questions about the defense, but people will believe that DJ Durkin's defense can rebound from a high-scoring Baylor game. As Dustin mentioned, the eyes of the nation are going to be on you. It's Colorado, Georgia Tech is the only other P4 game that night on a Friday night. So go out there, and if you make it look polished, and this is American Idol final round, man. The spotlight is going to be on you, and all you got to do is go out and deliver the performance of a lifetime. Pick your best song, sing that riff, man, get it out, and make it look good from game one. Inject that hope into it. It's not that you could not turn it around after that. As far as your comparison to Billy Napier, I will tell you this, right? Like, what I feel about Napier had everybody, because I think that Napier's schedule drove a lot of the speculation about his firing. It was just such a hard schedule. Nobody thought he would survive that schedule.
Yeah.
And not only did he survive it, he did it while making a quarterback change to a true freshman mid-season. Do we think that Hugh Freeze has the stomach to do that? To say, I don't think it's going well. I'm going to go to true freshman Deuce Knight. Game 5 on the road at Texas A&M. Because we need a spark.
Napier was forced there for an injury, though, so it wasn't like no master stroke of.
Yeah, he go back to Mertz. He stuck with him.
Yeah,
he stuck with him. I've got questions. I've got questions, and you know why I don't. Why I think that Hugh knows that a lot of it is on him, which is why it'd be hard for him to make a switch. Instead of throwing the player under the bus, he's like, man, I just got to find the right play call. I got it. He thinks I know he knows that a lot of this is in his hands. Now he can call the perfect play. They still got to go out and execute. But I don't know, man, guys. I just think the level of freak out will be high if it doesn't look good offensively. And I think that will be warranted.
Yeah.
Based on what we've seen the first 2 years and the level of investment that has gone into this program offensively. There were a lot of people who questioned why Auburn didn't go after a Cam Ward, and the reasoning that we got was that, and when I say we, I'm talking about the War Rapport. Our sources told us that Auburn felt like, and Hugh Freeze, he said this to me in different words privately, they felt like they were more than a quarterback away. And for the asking price, which was $2 million, I think at the time, why spend $2 million on a QB if you feel like you got all these other needs? Let's continue to stack the deck until we find our QB. Okay, I can live with that. But the problem was, without him, without your Cam Ward type at QB, you fell to 5-7. If they finished 7-5 last year, we're not having this conversation. Your recruiting's probably in a better spot. You made a bowl game. I mean, there's so many things, and you possibly win 8 games if you get that extra game. There's a ton more optimism around this thing. If you can get to a winning season last year, you didn't get there, and so now people are like, all right, even if you get the QB, what are you going to do with them? If you are in a position as a program where you need a QB to save you every single year, you have not built a good program. Some of them years you should be able to sustain better than 500 with an average QB.
Okay. Yes, I agree with that. Yes.
But having your QB is the difference between making a bowl game or going 5-7. You haven't built a good program.
I can agree with that.
It's not where you want. It's not where it should be. Not relative to the amount of resources that have been put into it. Guys, there were a lot of people who did not believe in Hugh Freeze when he got hired.
Yeah.
We legit had potential sponsors pull out and say, I will not give a dime to Auburn football, anything Auburn football related, while he is the coach. There were people who asked to have their names pulled off of buildings. They donated millions to the university. Said, I won't keep the money, take my name off it. You have been given the keys to something that most people would pray to have. And now it's time to deliver better than what we've seen the first 2 years. I believe he can do it. But if he doesn't look good game one, going back to your question, the freak out will be 15. They will be on 15.
Yeah.
And it will be warranted.
I think we're close to 10 right now. So if you lose that game, I think you tip over into the boiling water spilling out onto the stove, and things start to spark flames happening there. Dustin, what's your thoughts on it?
It's got to be a 10. It has to be a 10. At some point, like, we have a responsibility as fans, you know, and when we put on the media hat, it's a little bit different, but
not different for me. I'm a fan every single time.
I hear you. I know what you're saying. For me, it's like, I just feel like Auburn fans, it's got to be a 10 because I don't want the standard to change. And when we talked about apathy a little bit earlier, and because people are just so sick of losing, and we saw the fans last year check out as the losing streak happened.
They did.
As it becomes obvious, okay, here we go again, another losing season. I can't even get fired up about it. It feels like the next play is just the next bad play, the next disaster just right around the corner. And that attitude has been earned. Like, if that's what you feel watching Auburn football, you should, because that's what they've shown you over the past 4 years and really longer than that. So it's a 10, 15, like Mike said, and it should be. It should be, because everybody's tired of losing, and they should be. There's too many resources. There's too much attention from the boosters, from the administration, from the school. We talked about how great the fans are earlier. There's just too much energy that get pumps into Auburn football for this to continue. And when you are like, I expected this recruiting cycle to be a little bit slower for Auburn for a lot of reasons. One reason, the money you just pumped into some of these portal pieces, right? The money that you pumped into the class the last couple of years, on top of this class, just number-wise, was always going to be a smaller class because of the size of the last couple of high school classes. What I didn't expect was a Hugh Freeze-led program to be 75th in recruiting. That's crazy. I don't care how many excuses are made for it. It shouldn't be acceptable. It's not. It's just not. Yeah. Under any scenario, under any circumstances, Auburn should not be struggling the way they are right now recruiting. So, yeah, everyone is on edge, and they should be, because Auburn football, despite what's been going on lately, there's a tradition of winning. And like I said earlier, you've lost 4 games every year for over a decade. That shouldn't be happening. Should Auburn make the playoffs every year and all this kind of stuff? No. But Mike, I don't remember exactly what show it was, but you did a show recently. You've been pumping them out. But I watched one recently where you kind of alluded to just the fact that the Auburn fans always show up, and they're all like, it's just time, man. And I know I said this earlier, but the time is now. It has to be now. And with this schedule, with the way that you've recruited over the last couple of years, with the Keldrick Falks of the world, Keldrick Falk could be a first-round talent, right?
Yeah.
Mike, when we went and watched Cam Coleman in high school, it took about a quarter before we looked at each other and said, that kid's a first-round talent. DeMarcus Reddick, high first-round talent. Connor Liu, centers don't really get drafted in the first round. He'll be one of the top centers off the board in the draft. Jay Crawford does what he did again last year. Lockdown corner in the NFL, first, second round talent. Like, you can go down the line with these guys, like
Eric Singleton.
Eric
Like,
Singleton,
you
man,
can rattle them off.
it's stacked up now. So it's all there. And Auburn fans should demand that it get back right. So the freak out should be as high as y'all want it to be. Like freak out.
Yeah.
Because it's got to change, man.
Yeah, I would say this. I think that if you've given your time and energy and money and you've gone to games and you rushed the field after they beat Texas A&M last year and you had your whole weekend ruined because Auburn couldn't score 20 points in a football game, you got the right to freak out and demand better from them. This is the part of having an impassioned fan base that you can't have one without the other.
Right.
100%.
You want fans that care? This is part of what comes with it.
Yeah.
You want fans that'll show up, rain or shine? This is part of what comes with it.
Yeah, because I mean, your alternative is you get Kentucky and Arkansas.
Yeah, fair weather fans.
That'll be fine with mediocrity as long as, you know, every now and then they pop. It's like, no, we shouldn't be down here in the cellar this long. Like, what are we doing? 1 year of bad stuff. All right, fine. But bro, like 6 years. Are we serious?
And, you know, I think that the important thing too is, you know, and Mike, you talked about this too. They said there was an article that y'all read off recently where they said Auburn is quick to turn over head coaches.
Yeah.
And Mike made the point, well, Gus got like a decade and Harsin kind of earned the quick exit. Like, that's not Chizik got 4 years. He went 3-9. You got to get rid of a guy when he goes 3-9 and 0-8 in the SEC. Like, Auburn historically hasn't been quick to pull the trigger on coaches. They actually give coaches a lot of time. I think Harsin was the first one in my lifetime. At least, I don't know what happened when I was like 2 or 3. But first one I can remember that got fired in season. And that was more so of like lack of effort in recruiting and some stuff going on with all that. Right. I think if he was still recruiting, like putting an effort in recruiting, they would have let him play out the season, even though it was going bad and he wasn't going to be a winning season. If there would have been more try from him, I think he would have got not fired on his birthday. But that's what happened to him for a couple of different reasons, right? Like, Auburn doesn't normally get down like that. They'll give it, crazy, bro. Yeah, it is. They'll give a head coach a chance, man. And Gus, like, he got a decade, and then he was the OC before that. Like, he was in charge of Auburn's offense for almost a decade and a half. Like, don't give me this crap about Auburn being impatient. Auburn fans are patient. Auburn's administration's been patient, and the expectations for the most part are reasonable. You always have crazy people here or there, but I don't hear a lot of Auburn fans demanding playoffs every year. We just want to get back to watching competent football, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to your point, I don't think that's a bar that's too high to ask for.
I'll tell you, you haven't heard them demanding playoffs every year, but now that there are 12 teams, possibly more, even on the way coming in, you will hear them demanding playoffs every year. If the bar is 10 wins and 5th in the SEC, playoff every year is going to start to become an expectation, especially with the level of talent that they have, if they can maintain it. I don't care what you say. I don't care what anybody says. Lane Kiffin is a failure. It's a failure. You couldn't get this team with that quarterback to the playoffs when there were 12 spots available. Hello, Ole Miss. Welcome to your glass ceiling. You hit it.
That home loss to Kentucky so bad.
Well, it was. Man. We talked about their schedule up and down and said if they don't start 6-0, I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah, Missouri, the first half of their schedule last year looks like the back half of Auburn's schedule this year, where it's like, bro, you should win these games.
Oh, you should win these games.
Yeah.
Go look at Missouri.
A team that people thought was a national championship caliber team in Ole Miss absolutely laid an egg out there versus Kentucky. Crazy.
This should not have ever happened. But if you can't get it done in that year, what year are you going to get it done in? All I know is you're going to continue to find ways to lose. Mind you, they got over their Georgia hump last year and still blew it. You beat Georgia and then you missed the playoffs.
Yeah.
Missouri, no excuses. I'm telling you, like I like what Eli's been able to do there, but hello, welcome to your glass ceiling as well, too. You can't get it done with one of the best wide receiver QB combos we saw in the country last year. You just can't get it done. Alabama, I'm sorry, bar for bar, you inherited the most talented team any coach has ever gotten by composite star. And I'm talking about unanimous, everyone agrees. Every service that rates talented, Alabama had the most talented team in the country last year. Kellen Moore took them and missed the playoffs. He's not Nick Saban. Nick would never. He would have found his way into them playoffs. If you're Hugh Freeze, this is the year where you prove that you can be closer to maybe like Brian Kelly, or are you Lane Kiffin? Because if that's what Lane's doing, I don't want that. You got to be better than that. Jackson Dart, when did he get taken in the draft?
I think third round,
second
round. I mean, it was pretty high.
He was quite clearly the best QB in the SEC last year. Him and Nussmeier were 2 4,000-yard passers in the SEC last year.
He was the 25th overall pick, so he was a first rounder.
First round.
Yeah.
First
Giants got rid of
pick.
Daniel Jones and made him the guy.
And you missed the playoffs. If you're Hugh with this schedule and this talent, people are giving him 8 wins as a floor. Is
Mike's audio's cutting up for me. Is it going out for you too, Dustin?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, his
froze.
internet's. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. All right, we'll try to see if we can get Mike back in there. It looks like he froze, but I listen. The points he's making are solid, right? Like, there's no reason why Auburn should not be performing better with the level of talent that is on this team right now, and there's no reason why Auburn should be sitting here like we shouldn't be having this conversation post 5-7. We should be having it post 7-5 and figuring out how you get back into a place where you can level set and have a better expectation for what hope looks like, right? Like, if your hope right now is just to go to a bowl game, to people's point about what they tried to say, Coach Hugh Freeze was saying, if that's where you are mentally, where it's like making a bowl game is the acceptable floor, then, you know, what Dustin just said, you have now reset what the expectation is for this program, and that should never be the standard. You've lowered the standard at that point in time.
Yeah, it's got to be up in a place where the expectation should have been always been playoff in year 3. With 12 teams, the expectation should have been playoff. And so it will sound to a lot of people like, oh, Auburn people have delusions of grandeur and all this stuff. But the talent was there last year. You underperformed the talent, sure. But they had, it's crazy how when it's not together from a coaching standpoint, everything looks worse. If Jimbo Fisher can get the resources that he got and the NIL money he got and all the 5 stars he got and then get fired, there is a way for you to take any amount of talent and coach it down. And what people want to see is this the year that we're going to see these guys get coached up? And if you watch the first 2 years and you had questions about whether they can coach them up, especially on offense, I hear you. That's warranted. Now that you have your guys, because the excuse that we were given is that they felt like they didn't have the requisite talent to run their system fully. He said this in post games, where you remember, Dusty, we're shrinking the package this week to things we feel like we could do well. And I'm like, shrinking? What do you mean you're shrinking? It's just unreal that this is a conversation that we're having in year 2 with a returning quarterback and a returning running back. And the continuity that they had, I thought we should be expanding what you're doing. So if the concepts aren't taking, you either have a learning problem or you have a teaching problem. You guys, we all went to college, bro. You know how it is. At the end of the semester, when it's time to rate, if you're a professor and everyone in your class is failing, you suck. Because we all got into college. So it can't be all of us. They got to pass a certain amount of students every semester, or you're not doing a good job teaching. Now it's time. What was the site called? Was it ratemyprofessor.com that we used to go to back in the day? Yeah. Right? Rate my coach. So it's time. It's time for Hugh to show us something on the field, man. I don't care. Look, get it done. Get it done. DJ Durkin, I thought he held up his end of the bargain last year. Holy hell, man. His defense went out and got turnovers. 4 times they turned Alabama over in that Iron Bowl, and Auburn couldn't turn that into 21 points. Yikes, man.
That halfback pass with Jarquez, though.
I hate it. It's a soft spot. I hated that call there. I think they've had a very bad feel since the last 2 years for when to call those sorts of plays. But I will tell you, defensively, I've got less questions. I've got supreme confidence that Auburn will go out. And if they even did just what they did last year from a scoring standpoint, no team ran away from Auburn on the scoreboard last year. Nobody. The bar to which they have to raise their level offensively is so mid for them to win 8 games. Guys, it's mid. This going back to our conversation about Pavia. Diego Pavia. 17 points is what he produced in that game. 17 points. Come on, man. Pavia didn't come in and put up 40-something on Auburn. He did that to Bama. They should.
And the field position in that game was ridiculous. Diego, their field position versus us was so much better. Diego should have scored 30. He had the ball.
Yeah.
In great field position the entire game. We just couldn't.
The defense did their job way more times than they let Auburn down, which is why I don't get anybody having negative thoughts about where this defense can be next year, because you didn't watch those games last year. So
yeah, they absolutely held Auburn in every single game. You had a game with Georgia in the 4th quarter. You blew a 4th down where your coach and your QB got on national TV and Spider-Man memed each other, pointed the finger at each other. Yeah. What happened? Halfback dive left. That's not the way I saw it. And look, man, we heard about 15 different stories about that play call. There's one, I believe. So ultimately, I know that it comes down back to the head coach, making sure that everybody understands what the assignment is in those critical moments of the game. The ball was, I think, around midfield, and it was a 10-point game. You score any amount of points on that drive, and you've got a 1-score game in the 4th quarter with Georgia. Man, it was so close. I'm telling you, if Auburn comes out and wins 9-10 games somehow this season, the storylines are going to be like, oh, what a great turnaround. But they weren't really a 5-win team last year. That's what it showed up like on the scoreboard, but that's not. They were better than 5 wins, man. So if they make a big jump this year, it's going to be a jump from where they should have been last year, 7 or 8 wins, to where they should be this year.
Yeah, but the questions are, can this coaching staff get them there, and will there be enough patience if game 1 doesn't look the way that it needs to on the scoreboard? We'll answer those questions coming up here, and we are in We're in July now, guys. We are a month and a half away, really. Well, a month, almost a full 2 months, because it's the end of August that they're going to be playing. But we're getting closer and closer to it. SEC Media Day is coming up here in a couple of weeks, and we're going to have a ton of questions for Coach Hugh Freeze when we get there. Let's get over here to the comment section and see what these people are talking about here. I'll start it off, of course, with Super Chats. War Eagle says, man, to see where you guys have come in 5 years is awesome. War Damn Eagle, thank you so much. Our guy JC has been here from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And always supporting. Thank you for that. Hawk with the super chat says Justin Hokanson dropped Hugh and John Cohen's comments today on X about recruiting and NIL struggles. He continues, also said he believes we will have a top 10 class this year. Listen, top 10 class is not out of the question. Dustin just laid out to you what happened last year with Florida. But that momentum is not going to turn around all on its own. You got to figure out how to make the wins happen. And the Florida formula includes getting dubs.
Yeah.
Yeah. When the reports are that you lost a highly rated 4-star wide receiver out of the state of Georgia to the Kentucky because his NIL offer was significantly better than Auburn's, it raises a lot of questions.
Tim jumps in and says we lose the Baylor game and Nike might drop us and we got to go back to Russell.
Russell Athletic. Do you remember the Russell? What's the Russell Athletic Factory on 280?
Yes, on 280.
Yeah, headed out to Birmingham. Every time I drive by there, I'm like, remember this? Remember this thing, Russell Athletic. 2004
went undefeated in them Russells, baby.
Yeah. There's some magic in the Russells out there in the history of Auburn. All right. That's it. That's all we got for you guys today. Great conversation. I appreciate it. So many great chats out there. We don't have time to get to all of them, but I thank everybody who is here live in the chat. Before we get over into what people need to do to support us, Dustin, tell the people what you got going on over there at the Uptempo Podcast.
Yeah, man. I'm going to be at SEC Media Days with you guys. Really fired up. And I'm just can't wait for football, man. Can't wait for football. Once the college baseball season ends, I kind of have a couple of weeks of, just having the weekends to myself, maybe going to the beach, doing my thing. And then quickly I get back to the point of watching old games from the past and missing college football on Saturday. So can't wait to be up there in Atlanta. My first SEC Media Days. I'm going to pump out a ton of content for you guys. And for our members, we continue to pump out recruiting update videos, film breakdown of commitments. Hasn't been a whole lot of fun lately on that side of things, but, hopefully it can turn around. There's still some prospects on the board. So, yeah, man, just really excited. Come over there and follow me at the Uptempo Podcast. We stay pumping it out. Basketball, football, baseball, do the whole thing.
Yes, indeed. Mike G, tell the people how they can support all things War Rapport.
You guys already know the deal. As always, we want to thank our title sponsor, The Rage Room. The addresses are there. Please go visit them. Get some rage out. I feel like I got some rage out here on today's broadcast. Talking about this schedule always gets me riled up. I'm going to go to The Rage Room and break some stuff to complete the process. You should too. Sign up as a patron. $6 a month will get you there. We've been seeing an increase in memberships lately. We want to keep that going. Guys, join as a member when SEC Media Days gets here. We're going to have lots of great patron-only content for you guys. You don't want to miss out on that. Myself, Ike, our usual weekly Auburn Express crew will all be there, as well as some folks from the network. We're going to produce a hell of a lot of content for you guys, and you can help keep that work going by signing up as a patron. I want to thank our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever else in your life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. Please go visit them. Also want to thank our friends at the Vibe Vault. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Suite E in Phoenix City, Alabama. Get fresh for the weekend with the Vibe Vault. Not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. As I mentioned, we are on audio. Check us out, the Auburn Express, Uptempo, College Loop, Just a Sec, and the War Rapport Gaming channel. Dustin representing the Uptempo Podcast here tonight. Lots of great audio-only content for you guys. Go to each one of these podcasts. Hit follow, subscribe, whatever is applicable on your particular podcast platform, and turn on automatic downloads for all of our content. We're working hard to bring you guys the content in the form that you need. A lot of people have reached out to me and said, we love the YouTube shows, but the YouTube app is not friendly, Everything we do on video is available on audio, and there's actually more stuff available on audio than you can get on YouTube. So you want to be subscribed to the podcast, guys. We love that you guys come here to interact, but you can also, if you're at the gym, sometimes it's just easier to pop open that podcast app and give us a listen there. So we're breaking up the conversation for you guys there as well. I appreciate the support. We're growing there. We want to continue to grow up those podcast charts.
For sure. Before you all get out of here, make sure you share the content with somebody so that somebody else can join the conversation in the post of this. And I love seeing the comments afterwards of people who misconstrue things we say. It's always wonderful. I enjoyed that so much. Like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You can follow us on social media. We're at the War Rapport on X and Instagram. TW Rapport is where we are on TikTok. We'll be back at you with more Auburn Express stuff later on this week. More Watch the Film coming later on this week. Hopefully, if you don't see us before then, you have a great 4th of July that's coming up, and you guys go out there and have a safe holiday season. But we are out of here until the next time. And as always, War Eagle.